My son Jackson just got his acceptance letter from Harvard. To celebrate, I surprised him with his first ever sports car, a custom-made Aston Martin. The day we went to pick it up, the entire showroom turned their heads. Our family was beaming. It felt like a moment out of a dream. But then, out of nowhere, this slick-haired live-stream influencer strutted in and slid right into Jackson's car like he owned it. Jackson rushed over, visibly shaken. "That's my car," he snapped. "Who the hell said you could sit in it?" The guy didn't even blink. He casually pulled out a credit card and waved it around like a trophy. "This card's from my wife, Evelyn," he smirked. "She's the CEO of Oceanic Holdings. Doesn't matter what this car costs, I'll top any offer. Let's say, an extra $500,000. That got the whole showroom buzzing. People circled around like it was some kind of circus. Phones came out. Cameras clicked. Everyone was recording. I couldn't help but laugh coldly. "Kid, this car costs nearly $6 million. You think an extra $500,000 makes you a big shot?" I stepped closer, voice low and sharp. "And flashing around a card your wife gave you, my wife, no less? You're trying to outbid me with my own damn money?" The nausea hit me like a wave. This was the final straw. My wife, using my wealth to pamper some freeloading pretty boy, and now he's bold enough to use my money to steal a car meant for my son? I looked around, disgusted. A woman like that? Not worth keeping. Not for another second. The moment the salesman heard the words Oceanic Holdings, his face lit up like a Christmas tree. He rushed over, all smiles, and bowed slightly as he offered his business card. "If you ever need anything, sir, just give me a call. I'll make sure it's handled personally." Blake, the slick-haired pretty boy, grinned and handed over a card of his own. "Name's Blake," he said, like he was doing the guy a favor. Jackson's face turned crimson. "You can't be serious," he shouted, voice cracking with disbelief. "We waited 3 months for this car, 3 damn months." He stepped forward, eyes locked on the salesman. "His wife might be CEO of Oceanic Holdings, but do you even know who my father is?" Blake scoffed, barely glancing in his direction. "I don't give a damn who your daddy is. Everyone knows Evelyn from Oceanic Holdings is the wealthiest woman in the city. What she says, goes. People like you? Just another batch of lottery winners pretending they belong." Jackson lunged forward, ready to snap back, but I grabbed his arm and pulled him aside. "Not here," I said, calm but firm. He looked at me, stunned, still fuming. But he didn't resist. The truth was, our usual sales consultant wasn't in today. Total coincidence. We had only planned to come in, sign the papers, and drive home. Clean. Simple. We never imagined the circus that would be waiting for us. Or that this random influencer, this glorified sugar baby, would turn our celebration into a damn sideshow. That's when I recognized him. He was one of those social media dancers my wife obsessively followed online. Always popping up on her feed, half naked, doing those cringe-worthy viral routines. What I didn't know, was when the hell their little online flirtation had crossed into real life. But looking at him now, all smug and self-satisfied, I knew exactly what had been going on. Those two parasites, thought they could keep playing me for a fool? Not today. Today, I'd make damn sure they went down in flames, together. I scanned the room. Sure enough, a couple of his crew had their gear out, still streaming live, milking every second of this scene. I let out a low, bitter laugh. So that was the plan, use me and Jackson as the pitiful before to his shiny after. A twisted little PR stunt to win him more likes and sympathy. The crowd was swelling now. More phones out. More whispers. Blake was soaking it up. "This car's insane," he said loudly, pacing around it like he owned the place. Never seen this model before. Paint job's gotta be custom, right? He turned toward his live stream. A build like this? You're looking at 6 months from order to delivery, minimum. And now? Poof. All that wait, just gone. Some smug voice in the crowd piped up. Didn't that high school kid ask who his dad was? Hey, who is his dad? All eyes turned to Jackson. Silence. But he didn't explode this time. He glanced at me. And then, just like I hoped, he straightened up, dropped the anger, and shot the salesman a look so cold it could have frozen metal. He finally understood. This wasn't about yelling louder. It was about power. And we were about to remind everyone exactly who had it. Jackson stepped forward, his voice calm but cutting. I don't care who my dad is. I ordered this car. I paid for it. That makes it mine. The salesman immediately scrambled to play peacemaker, his tone syrupy and fake. Sir, how about this? We compensate you for the delay, $500,000, just for the inconvenience. Blake's grin stretched so wide it looked painful, his chin practically pointed toward the ceiling like he thought he was royalty. Jackson gave them both a cold, unimpressed glance. I don't want your money, he said. I want my car. A few voices from the crowd chimed in, trying to talk him down. Kid, come on, $500,000 for waiting a few months? That's a damn dream. Yeah, take the cash, wait 6 months, and order another one. But Jackson didn't budge. His tone sharpened. My dad can make $500,000 in a heartbeat. That kind of money means nothing to us. Blake's expression twisted. The smugness vanished, replaced by pure irritation. He slammed his hand on the hood, once, twice, hard enough to echo through the room. You rich boy wannabes wanna flex? Don't make me laugh, he barked. You think you own this car? Hell, my wife owns this entire dealership. Every damn square inch. That did it. Jackson's face turned crimson. His hands balled into fists. He looked ready to launch himself at Blake, fists first. But I grabbed his shoulder, tight, and held him back. Not here, I said under my breath. Not yet. He froze. His chest rose and fell, rage barely contained. But he didn't move. This wasn't over. Not even close. I turned to Blake, my voice sharp as ice. Go ahead. Kick it harder. Total it, if you've got the guts. We'll just replace it with a newer model. That set him off. Snarling, he slammed his foot into the car door, once, twice, metal crunching under the force. You think I won't? This entry-level Aston Martin? It's not even worth a damn. I haven't seen this crap on any lot. He kicked the front bumper next. If it weren't for that custom wrap, you think I'd even want this thing? Each blow left a mark, deep dents, scratched paint, scuffed bodywork. I stood there, arms folded, watching him like he was a toddler mid-tantrum. Evelyn, I thought, you really picked a winner. No brains on either end. She may have been reckless, but this boy toy? He was suicidal. The reason Blake hadn't seen this model on the market was simple. This was the newest Aston Martin in production. Barely released. Base price, $5 million. With custom mods and exclusive features? The total hit nearly 6.2. Even for us, SVIP clients, the build still took 3 months. Anyone else would have waited 6. Our original consultant, George, the general manager, had personally handled our order. But he wasn't in today. And this poor excuse for a salesman? He didn't even know what series he was looking at. I raised my hand and pointed toward the entrance, where the assistant manager had just stepped in, flanked by dealership security. Why don't we let the professionals sort out who owns this vehicle? I said coolly. Blake's face paled. He scrambled, talking fast, spitting out half-baked excuses that didn't even make sense. I was just checking it out, I thought it was a test model, my wife said. The assistant manager didn't even look at him. I calmly handed over our signed purchase agreement, bank transfer confirmation, and the delivery schedule. Everything was in order. Everything legal. Everything ours. The manager skimmed the paperwork, nodded once, then turned to Blake with a look colder than steel. This vehicle is fully paid for and registered to the customer. Your actions just now, forced entry, physical damage, attempted seizure, border on grand theft or armed robbery, depending on interpretation. Blake's voice shot up a pitch. I already said I'd pay more, whatever it costs. I'll add $500,000 right now. The manager didn't even blink. Sir, under U.S. law, coercing or obstructing a legal transaction, especially through threats or force, is a criminal offense. If this behavior continues, we'll have no choice but to involve the police. That finally shut him up. For the first time all day, Blake had nothing to say. He stepped back, jaw tight, hands trembling, realizing, maybe for the first time, that he wasn't the main character after all. The salesman rushed to smooth things over, still trying to salvage whatever commission he could. This one's clearly not an option anymore, he said, flashing Blake a strained smile. But if you're still interested, sir, we've got other models, just say the word, I'll personally have one delivered to your doorstep. Jackson shot them both a frosty glance. He already sat in it, he said, his voice low and clipped. Damaged the interior, too. We don't want a car with that kind of energy lingering inside. The salesman blinked, and then, oddly, looked relieved. Like he'd been hoping we'd walk away from this cursed sale. He turned instantly toward Blake, practically shoving the problem back into his lap. Blake, hearing Jackson's final dismissal, lost whatever composure he had left. What the hell is this? He barked. First he says it's his, then he says he doesn't want it. What, he thinks he can just snap his fingers and decide the whole damn deal. Well, guess what? If he doesn't want it, I don't want it either. Across the showroom, the influencer crew was still filming. Phones were still out. Even more bystanders had joined in, capturing every second like it was primetime TV. A woman nearby snorted. Well, that's rich. A minute ago they were both fighting for it, now neither of them wants it. Love that for them. Someone else chimed in, loud enough for the cameras to catch. Didn't Blake say his wife's the CEO of some megacorp? If he's so loaded, why not just buy the damn car? A guy with a backward cap chuckled. Yeah, he's got a big following online, but rumor is, his wife is also his top donor on those live streams. The laughter that rippled through the crowd wasn't kind. I couldn't help it, I actually laughed. Not out of humor, but out of sheer disgust. This clown show was sponsored by my money. Over the past few years, the company had been running smoothly. I'd built it right, with a solid executive team and trusted staff to keep things moving. That gave me time to focus on what truly mattered, helping Jackson prepare for Harvard. My wife? She insisted on keeping her name on the company letterhead. A co-founder title to show off at dinner parties. I figured it was harmless. What I didn't know was that while I was investing in our son's future, she was siphoning money out of the business to bankroll her boy toys lifestyle. Blake, the smug little parasite standing before us, was now the center of attention. Phones were still recording. The whole crowd had morphed into an audience, waiting for the next act. He rolled his eyes, clearly irritated, and threw up his hands. All right, fine. I guess I got screwed today by a bunch of street rats. Whatever, he spat. This piece of crap car? Tops out at $5 million. Big deal. Then, like he was pulling out Excalibur, he flashed a sleek, jet black Centurion card. This baby links straight to my wife's private banking account. At any given time, I've got 5 million liquid, ready to go. I could buy this car with one swipe if I felt like it. The crowd let out a collective gasp. Someone near the front practically squealed. Holy, is that a real centurion? You don't just apply for that. They audit your account. Not your net worth, your cash flow. You need insane numbers, every single year. Another whispered, almost reverently. He's young, too. To have that kind of wealth at his age? Unreal. The salesman, meanwhile, looked like he was about to pass out. Sweat was dripping from his forehead. He kept glancing between the crowd, the car, and the card like he was caught in a hostage negotiation. This was no longer a luxury sale. This was a circus, and he was trapped at the center of the ring. The salesman took the centurion card with both hands, reverent like it was a holy relic. Man, you really saved the day, he gushed, practically bowing. If this were the Wild West, you'd be the guy riding in with a white hat, cleaning up the town. You're not just loaded, you've got style. A real young hotshot. The crowd ate it up. Blake basked in the praise, his ego inflating like a parade balloon. He spun on his heel and raised his arm in a grand flourish. Tonight, drinks are on me, he declared. Bars open after work. Everyone's invited. The room erupted into cheers. Phones were back up. Smiles all around. The dealership had officially turned into his stage. He pivoted toward us, that smirk practically glued to his face. Smart folks know how to play the game, he said, his tone dipped in sarcasm. Keep grinding, who knows, maybe one day you'll be sales legends too. Then, with a slow shake of the head, he added. Unlike some broke nobodies, still thinking a base model Aston Martin is their peak achievement. A ripple of laughter spread through the crowd. No one was even pretending to hide it now. Damn, he just threw down 5 million like it was lunch money. Trust fund kids get what they want, those two should have handed over the car. Could have been a smart networking move. It's called leverage, man. That's how the real players do it. A few even stepped closer, genuinely impressed, one of them asking. Hey, what do you do, man? You gotta teach me, whatever it is, I want in. I watched it unfold, equal parts sickened and fascinated. The power of illusion. Of spectacle. Of a man standing on top of my money, my car, and my family's dignity, being celebrated like he was king of the world. And my wife? She handed him the throne. While the cheers and flattery still echoed around the showroom, I calmly reached into my coat pocket, pulled out the purchase invoice, and handed it to the salesman. All right then, I said flatly. 6.8 million. Go ahead, run his card. The crowd quieted. Blake didn't even look back. He just snorted and spit on the floor. Yeah, right. What did you do, go home and doctor the invoice? He scoffed. You seriously expect people to believe this car is worth $6.8 million? He took a step closer, voice rising. That's fraud. Extortion. You think I don't know the law? Keep pushing, and you'll end up in court, or worse, in prison. From behind us, voices began whispering, murmuring in doubt. Come on, man. Father and son should just walk away. They got offered 5 million, that's more than fair. Yeah, it's getting greedy now. They're gonna piss off the wrong people. Someone added under their breath. You know Oceanic Holdings has a private security team, right? Ex-mercenaries. If he makes too much noise, he might get handled, quietly. I ignored the background noise and turned to the salesman. You've got system access. Your back-end logs every model, every build, every customization. Why don't you pull up the record? He hesitated, then nodded, swallowing hard. He walked over to the computer, tapped in a few keys. And froze. Eyes wide. Pupils dilated. His legs buckled slightly beneath him. This car really is $6.8 million, he said aloud, barely above a whisper. Then louder, like the truth had slapped him awake. This car is worth $6.8 million. A collective gasp swept through the room. For the first time all day, the crowd wasn't laughing. They were staring. Staring at the car. Staring at Blake. Staring at the man who just tried to destroy something he couldn't even comprehend. As soon as the price was confirmed, $6.8 million, the mood in the room shifted like a snap of cold wind through open doors. The crowd, once mocking and smug, turned quiet, then murmurs rose. Wait a minute, so that really was a $6.8 million car? Jackson said his dad could pull in millions in a blink. Guess that wasn't a bluff. Damn. They've been low-key this whole time, real wealth doesn't show off. Another voice cut in, harsher now. Meanwhile that pretty boy influencer's card can't even cover one car, and he was acting like a king? Embarrassing. The salesman glanced at me, sheepish and sweaty. I raised an eyebrow and smiled, not warm, but surgical. Pay up. 6.8. Not a penny less. Blake's expression flickered, just for a second. A twitch of something close to fear. But it vanished behind another layer of arrogance. Fine, he said, jaw tight. I'll call my wife. She'll transfer it over right now. He yanked out his phone, punched the screen, and pressed it to his ear. The line clicked. Then a voice, her voice, came through the speaker. Evelyn. Crystal clear. My wife. Our money. Blake turned away slightly, whispered something low and fast. Then he hung up. And when he turned back, he had the grin of a man who thought he'd won. No problem, he said. She's sending me $10 million. Said to make sure we don't get embarrassed again. The room let out another ripple of surprise. He stood there like he'd just dropped a mic. Like this was his moment to rise from the ashes. But I didn't flinch. Because I knew what came next. The moment Blake finished his grand little speech, my phone began to ring. I glanced at the screen. Evelyn. I answered, tone cool as glass. I don't care where you are, she snapped without a hello. I don't care what you're doing. I need you to transfer $10 million right now. I took a breath. Looked around the showroom. Jackson stood quietly beside me. I'm at the dealership, I said evenly. With Jackson. We'll talk later. But Evelyn wasn't having it. Victor, don't play games with me. If you're done with this marriage, say it. Jackson's already into Harvard. He doesn't need us together anymore. She didn't even get to finish. I hung up. My jaw tightened. The urge to bury her, financially, legally, publicly, was boiling just beneath the surface. This woman. The one I'd spoiled beyond reason. From the moment we got married, I gave her everything she asked for. Money? No questions asked. A career she couldn't build herself? I handed her a title and a company to put it on. She didn't earn it. She barely understood it. But she wanted power, so I gave her the illusion of it. And what did she do with it? She took my money. Used it to fund Blake. To dress him. Feed him. Throw him parties. Make him feel like a man. My lips curled in disgust. Enough. I opened my phone again, this time, to text my legal team. Per the prenup, draft a divorce agreement. I want Evelyn out, completely. No assets. No shares. No exit gifts. Nothing. Execute immediately. I hit send. The moment I hung up, Evelyn started calling again. Over and over. I stared at the screen once more, then powered off the phone. Let her scream into the void. She made her bed. Now she could rot in it. Moments later, Blake raised his phone like he'd just hit the jackpot. There. See that? He announced, flashing the screen. Money's in. The grin was back. He swaggered over and handed the funds to the salesman, $6.8 million, transferred in full, without a flinch. The salesman exhaled, long and deep, as if he'd just come down from the worst roller coaster of his life. He nodded, and, following procedure, handed my payment back to me. It should have been satisfying. It wasn't. I stared down at the refund receipt, my stomach churning. That card, the one Blake used, it was a secondary card. Issued under my name. Meant for Evelyn. A backup, with preset permissions I'd forgotten even existed. Frozen or not, the fact that it still had millions accessible. Infuriating. How much had she siphoned while I stepped back from Oceanic Holdings? How deep did the rot go? Blake, now the owner of a scratched-up luxury car and the butt of half the city's jokes, was clearly in no mood to linger. He motioned for his influencer crew to pack it up. That's when I stepped in front of him. Hold on. He paused, irritated. What now? I held up my own phone. Calm. Clear. That Centurion card you used, that's the supplementary card I issued to my wife. So tell me, Blake, how'd you get it? The crowd, which had begun to thin out, stopped cold. Then, as if choreographed, every head turned back. Blake stiffened. His eyes narrowed. You're making accusations without proof. That card was a gift from my wife. She told me to use it, specifically for this. His voice pitched higher, angrier, trying to fight the rising tide of doubt. You people are unbelievable. You're pushing this too far. I'm calling her right now. I'm bringing her here, and when she gets here. He pointed at Jackson and me, eyes blazing. You two won't be able to breathe in this city again. He slammed the call button, marched outside, and stood tall like he was summoning divine judgment. Moments later, a sleek black Bentley glided up to the curb. The door opened slowly. And there she was. Evelyn. Clad in a fitted black pencil dress, heels clicking as she stepped out, lips pressed into a practiced smile. Her arrival was choreographed. Intentional. Cinematic. Just the way she liked it. But today? Today she walked into a storm. Blake positioned himself right at the dealership entrance, standing tall, ready, making sure Evelyn would see him first. And she did. The moment she stepped out of the Bentley, her eyes locked on his. She rushed toward him in heels like they were combat boots, not hesitating for a second. She grabbed Blake's hand tightly, eyes wide with concern. Who was it? She asked, breathless. Who dared mess with you, baby? Your girl's here, I'll handle it. I stood frozen. Watching the woman I had once called my wife, clutching the hand of the boy I was about to sue out of existence. Rage burned behind my ribs. Not because she cheated, no, that wound had long scarred over. But because this was the first time she showed up for someone. Every time Jackson had a parent-teacher meeting, she'd text last minute, stuck in a meeting, sorry babe, next time. And now? 15 minutes after Blake called? She showed up like a rescue squad. Jackson stood beside me, fists clenched, jaw shaking. Dad, he growled through gritted teeth. I don't have a mother anymore. I reached out, grabbed his shoulder, firm but gentle. Not now, I murmured. Not like this. Keep your head. The crowd, of course, couldn't get enough. Phones up again. Whispers thick as fog. No way, that's the CEO of Oceanic Holdings? She's gorgeous. Always heard she was sharp, but damn, she's got presence. And Blake? Young, hot, charismatic. They look good together. Like a power couple out of a magazine. People weren't watching a scandal. They thought they were watching a red carpet reunion. I wanted to scream. Because they didn't see the truth. Not yet. But they would. Soon. After soaking in the applause and the flattering whispers, Blake draped an arm around Evelyn's shoulder, all performance. He pointed straight at us, me and Jackson, his voice shrill and theatrical. Them, he sneered. That father and son. Arrogant as hell. Tried to steal my car, said the centurion you gave me was theirs. He curled his lip, turning the full drama up to 10. Babe, I don't care how you do it, just make sure I never have to see these two lowlifes again. Evelyn's face hardened. Who the hell had the guts to mess with my husband, she snapped. She turned to face the crowd, scanning past heads and shoulders, until her gaze finally landed on us. Me. Jackson. Her breath hitched. The rage vanished from her face as shock spread across it like spilled ink. Victor? The name left her lips like a curse. She rushed forward, heels clicking over tile, and reached my side in seconds. She leaned in close, dropping her voice to a whisper no one else could hear. Victor, this is a total misunderstanding. A freak accident. Her smile was frozen but tight, like a crumbling mask behind her voice. That influencer? Blake? He's got reach. Millions of followers. I'm planning to break into the entertainment space, and, well, he's the key. He opens doors. She glanced nervously over her shoulder, then turned back to me. Look, he didn't recognize you. Neither did I, at first. He thought your son was causing trouble. That's all this is, just confusion. Then, her voice dropped to its lowest register, full of false diplomacy. So here's what we're going to do. You say a quick apology. Help him save face. We both step back. Let it blow over. A little grace, Victor. That's all I'm asking. She smiled again, thinking she was being reasonable. Thinking this would end like it always did, with me fixing the mess. But not today. Not this time. I stepped back and shoved her hand off my arm, loud enough for the entire showroom to turn our way. Apologize? I said, voice rising. Apologize to him? The guy who tried to steal your son's car and used our family's card without permission? I took a step forward, not hiding the fury now. You want us to apologize to him? Are you out of your mind? The entire room went still. I didn't stop. And while we're clearing things up, why don't you explain something, Evelyn? I pointed at Blake, who had taken a cautious step back. Where exactly did he get the money to pay for that car? Whose account did it come from? The crowd, already thick, had ballooned into a full-blown mob. Word had spread fast, Oceanic Holdings CEO was in the building. Shoppers, employees, even influencers from nearby stores had crammed into the dealership, phones out, cameras rolling. Everyone wanted a look. Everyone smelled scandal. This guy's yelling at the Oceanic CEO, someone whispered near the front. Who is he? Is he crazy or just rich enough to not care? No way, he just asked her where the money came from. In public? A third voice, laughing. Classic alpha move. At home he wants to control his wife, out in public, he wants to control everyone's wife. The room cracked with whispers, gasps, commentary. But Evelyn? She wasn't ready for this. She had built her world on polish. On performance. On being untouchable. Now, with half the city watching, she was cornered. And Jackson? He stood tall, arms crossed, his eyes leveled on her, cold, unblinking, full of disgust. "I don't know who she is anymore," he muttered under his breath. "But she's not my mother." Evelyn turned to him, startled, but there was no softness left in his stare. Only judgment. And silence. "But Evelyn?" She didn't flinch. She adjusted her collar, straightened the hem of her dress, and raised her chin like she was still walking into a boardroom, not a battlefield. "That was me being generous," she said, her voice icy, full of practiced venom. "I was trying to give you both a way out with your pride intact. But since you'd rather spit in my face." Her eyes flicked between me and Jackson. "Don't blame me when things get ugly." Jackson stepped forward, fists trembling at his sides. "Are you even listening to yourself?" he snapped. "Do you hear what you're saying?" My blood boiled. And then it snapped. No more tolerance. No more covering. No more swallowing it down in the name of image or peace or family. I raised my arm, and slapped her. Once. Twice. The sharp sound of it sliced through the air like a gunshot. She stumbled slightly, hand flying to her cheek. I pointed a finger at her, fury blazing behind my eyes. "Evelyn," I growled, "every stitch on your body, every dime in your wallet, every ounce of status you cling to, I paid for it. You want to threaten me now? You want to play tough? Tell me, just how exactly do you plan to not be polite, when everything you are came from me?" Dead silence. Not even a breath from the crowd. Phones stopped recording. Some people even lowered them. This had gone beyond entertainment. This was history. This was power crumbling in real time. Evelyn stared at me, her fingers trembling against her flushed cheek, her lips parted in shock. She hadn't expected this. Not in front of 100 strangers. Not from me. Not after all these years. What she saw in my eyes wasn't anger. It was the end. The whispers started up again, nervous, breathless, unstoppable. "He just hit her, in public. Oh, it's over. This is headline material. Guaranteed front page tomorrow." Front page? Are you kidding? This kind of scandal gets buried deep. Too much money involved. No, I mean literally buried. You think they make it to tomorrow? I don't know, something's off. That guy, he looks familiar. Powerful familiar. Who spends nearly $7 million on a car for their kid? This guy's not some nobody. Back at the center of it all, Blake finally stepped forward, puffed up with fake bravado, eyes full of rage and wounded pride. "You bastard," he screamed, voice cracking. "You hit my wife, do you think I'll let that slide? I'll end you, I swear to God." I didn't let him finish. Bam. One clean kick to the chest sent him flying. He crashed to the floor, limbs flailing, gasping for breath. Gasps rippled through the crowd again. No one moved. I towered over him, voice sharp and cold as steel. "You think youth means anything when you've already let booze and cheap sex rot you from the inside out? You're nothing but a hollow prop. A poser. A leech." He groaned on the floor, too stunned to respond. I turned to Evelyn, my voice suddenly booming, cutting through the murmurs like a blade. "Evelyn," I barked, "are you still going to lie to everyone here? You gonna keep pretending like this didn't happen? That he didn't steal from our family? That you didn't fund it? Say it. Right here. Right now. Tell them the truth." But she didn't even flinch. Didn't look at me. Didn't look at Jackson. Instead, she rushed straight to Blake's side, heels clacking, crouching down, cupping his face in her hands. "Oh my God, baby, are you okay?" she whispered, brushing his hair off his face. "Look at me. Look at me." Jackson stood motionless beside me, eyes dark, jaw tight. I didn't say another word. I didn't have to. Because in that moment, Evelyn made her choice. And she did it in front of the entire world. Evelyn spun toward me, eyes blazing. "You hit me, then you hit him," she spat. "You know what I think, Victor? I think you're just a pathetic man who doesn't know how to handle losing. You don't deserve any of this." She grabbed Blake's trembling hand and raised her voice for the crowd to hear. "These two, this father and son, they're unhinged. Call the police. I want them arrested. Let them pay for what they've done." Gasps echoed through the crowd. Jackson stared at her like he'd just been shot through the chest. His eyes went red, not with anger, but devastation. His mother. His mother had just disowned them, publicly. He didn't say a word, but his heartbreak was written all over his face. Around us, the noise escalated. Some people were scrambling for their phones. Others yelling into theirs already. "Yeah, there's been an assault at the dealership, Oceanic Holdings CEO is here, no, it's bad." Evelyn, somehow still calm, still performing, stepped forward, heels clicking like punctuation marks on tile, and stood once more in front of me. Her voice dropped again to that same conniving softness I'd heard too many times. "Victor," she said, almost gently. "You said once that I was the love of your life. Why humiliate me like this? In front of all these people? Couldn't you just play along, for my sake?" She leaned in closer, her voice nearly a whisper now. "When we get home, you can punish me however you want. Just, not here." I stared at her. This woman, who destroyed our trust, stole from our family, chose a boy toy over her son, and still expected to be protected. Still thought I'd cave. Still thought love meant immunity. But not anymore. I straightened my shoulders and met her eyes, calm and final. "You made your choice," I said. "You betrayed this family. You betrayed me. And now you want mercy?" I let out a short, bitter laugh. "I already contacted legal. Our prenup is clear. The paperwork's being filed today. Effective immediately, we're done." She flinched like I'd slapped her again. And for the first time since she stepped out of that Bentley. Evelyn had nothing to say. Evelyn stared at me for a long, tense moment. Then she straightened her shoulders, brushed her hair back, and said with forced calm. "Fine. If you're so eager to get divorced, let's go get it done. But I expect my fair share of the assets." She said it like she was calling checkmate. But inside, I nearly laughed. Because I knew exactly what she was playing at. Sure, we had a prenup. But I also knew how she thought. She was betting on the fact that my post-marriage earnings had ballooned, that a fair split would still leave her with enough to fund a new life with Blake, enough to buy silence, power, and distance. She imagined herself sailing away with luxury and a fresh start. But I smiled. Unbothered. "Absolutely," I said coolly. "We'll do it exactly by the book." She gave me a sideways glance, smug now. The kind of look that said I've already won. What she didn't know, what she'd never see coming, was that the moment I confirmed her affair, I had already acted. My lawyers had moved swiftly. Liquid assets? Transferred, quietly and legally. Properties? Reassigned. Stocks and ownerships? Funneled through holding entities. Everything else? Already committed to long-term development investments, untouchable, locked, volatile on paper. What was left under my name? Liabilities. Debt. Venture risk. Legal uncertainty. In the eyes of the court? Nothing cleanly divisible. Nothing worth chasing. She would walk away with exactly what she deserved. A title. A scandal. And a pile of financial deadweight. She thought she was divorcing a man in love. But she was divorcing a man with a plan. And this time, the ending wasn't hers to write. By now, nearly every bystander had their phones out, some discreetly filming, others live streaming openly, narrating the drama like they were hosting a reality show. One guy spoke straight into his phone, eyes wide with gleeful outrage. This dude really slapped the CEO of Oceanic Holdings. Wild. I mean, she's insanely gorgeous, and he just, bam. Right in front of everyone. Another added with righteous fury. That's not drama, that's domestic violence. Who hits a woman, period? He's a psycho. What kind of man does that? A third voice chimed in, almost performative in tone. I don't care how rich he is, if you're watching this, I beg you, boycott whatever this guy's company is. Let him go bankrupt. Let his products rot in the warehouse. And for God's sake, don't ever work for people like him. The tide of the crowd had begun to shift. Not toward truth. Toward spectacle. Toward sympathy, for the wrong side. And those two? The fallen CEO and her influencer boy toy? They saw the opportunity and ran with it. They stood side by side in front of a phone, Blake hunched slightly for dramatic effect, Evelyn dabbing at her eye with a tissue as if on cue. He attacked us, she said, voice cracking just right. This man, I gave him everything. And he turned violent in public, in front of our son. Blake leaned in, lip trembling. I tried to defend her. I tried to reason with him. But he just kept yelling and hitting. We were terrified. Tears. Crooked camera angles. Smeared mascara. Their tragedy tour had begun. And the audience? Eating it up. I watched it unfold with narrowed eyes, lips curling into a cold, knowing smirk. You want to play victims? Fine. Let's see how you perform under real pressure. I pulled out my phone, not to record. To signal. Moments later, mall security, full uniform, radios chirping, sprinted out the glass doors. The crowd turned. Something was happening. A beat passed. Then. A motorcade. Black SUVs, polished chrome grilles, tinted windows rolling in like storm clouds. Corporate logos discreet but unmistakable. The crowd hushed. Security formed a path. The air changed. It was no longer a live stream circus. It was a reckoning. At the front desk, the dealership receptionist picked up a call with a puzzled frown. Wait, what? Our owner's private security team is here? Here, at the mall? She hung up slowly, still confused. Before she could piece it together, a thunder of engines echoed from outside. Gasps. Heads turned. A convoy of luxury cars, Bentleys, Rolls-Royces, bulletproof Cadillacs, pulled up to the curb. Door after door opened in sync, like a military formation cloaked in couture. From each vehicle emerged a man in a tailored black suit, dark glasses, earpiece flashing. Not one. Not 10. Dozens. They moved with quiet precision. Not mall cops. Not stunt actors. This was serious muscle. Inside the dealership, the crowd exploded in murmurs, excitement, and dread. Holy shit, that's gotta be Oceanic Holdings' private security force. Oh man, that dad and his kid are done. You don't mess with people like this. Let's move back, someone's about to get flattened. I brought my niece today. She can't see this. Blake stood a few paces ahead of Evelyn, chest puffed with pride, eyes shining. He turned to her, practically trembling with admiration. They're here for you, right? He breathed. All of them? I can't believe you'd go this far, for me. He grabbed both her hands, eyes wide with worship. I swear, Evelyn, I'll love you forever. Even if you stop loving me one day, I won't stop loving you. From this moment on, I'm yours. Whatever you say, goes. He kissed her knuckles like she was a queen, and he, the fool who thought he was her king. The room buzzed like a powder keg. Someone whispered, "This is better than reality TV." Someone else muttered, "She brought her whole team? CEO-level retaliation. Damn." Phones lifted again. Live streams surged back online. What no one realized was that the biggest twist was still waiting just beyond the glass doors. And the people they thought were predators were about to find out who the real lion was. The insults were flying thick now. Crude. Loud. Cruel. Phones were streaming it live, captioned, embellished, cheered on by anonymous viewers. She assaulted the CEO, and now the husband brought mercs? Entitled psychos. Rich people are insane. They should both be locked up. The crowd wasn't just turning against us, they were frothing. Jackson stood trembling beside me, cheeks flushed, fists clenched. "I don't care anymore," he muttered, voice sharp with betrayal. "That woman is not my mom." I placed a steady hand on his shoulder. "Breathe. It's almost over." But amid the chaos, Evelyn's world had gone still. She wasn't yelling. Wasn't live streaming. She wasn't even blinking. Because through the haze of the shouting crowd, she saw them. 10 black SUVs parked outside. The tinted windows. The boots hitting the pavement. The unmistakable silhouettes of men she once feared more than anyone. These weren't Blake's bodyguards. They weren't police. These were my men. And she knew it. Her eyes locked on mine. Wide. Pleading. Because she knew what was coming. She had lived under the protection of these men for years, veterans, specialists, lethal but silent. The kind you only hire when you can't afford to lose. She wasn't afraid of scandal. But she was afraid of them. Because there was no spin. No charm. No escape. But it was too late. The doors slammed open. Boots stormed the showroom floor. 10 of them. Full tactical precision. Like black wolves in a glass cage. The dealership was surrounded in seconds. The crowd scattered like leaves in the wind. Cameras dropped. Live streams cut out. You could hear people's breath catch. And then. Blake. Still puffed up with delusion. He marched forward, pointing at Jackson and me like a child playing king. "You too. Over here," he barked. "These guys work for my wife. Take them down. Now." He strutted toward the men in black suits, waving like a general. "They're getting too full of themselves. Talking nonsense about credit cards and cheating, let's teach them a lesson." He leaned in, voice full of pride. "And don't forget, I'm the CEO's husband now. That makes me your boss, too." He didn't finish the sentence. Wham! One of the guards snapped forward, lifted a leg, and kicked Blake so hard he flew backward into a glass display. He crumpled like a rag doll. The room gasped. Blake groaned, dazed, limbs flailing. He tried to sit up, but another guard stepped forward, planting a boot onto his chest, pinning him flat to the floor. Blake choked. Wait, there must be some mistake," he wheezed. But the men didn't blink. Didn't speak. They were here on orders. And they took mine. I stepped over Blake without even looking at him, my footsteps echoing through the stunned silence. He was still writhing under the guard's boot, groaning like a man who couldn't believe reality had caught up. I didn't care. I had one more thing to say. I stood over him, raised my hand, and slapped him across the face. Twice. Crack. Crack. He whimpered. Eyes wide. Face burning red. Sleeping with my wife while living off my money, and now you're out here trying to command my security team? I grabbed his collar and yanked him closer. I've seen some shameless people in my life, but you? I spat. You take the crown. You've got 2 working arms and legs. Why don't you try using them? Ever heard of a job, you spineless little leech? You think being young and pretty means you get a shortcut? You think it means you're entitled to someone else's empire? I let him go like garbage and waved my hand. Teach him what his parents clearly didn't. 2 guards surged forward. Thud. Crack. Wham. He hit the floor hard. Arms shielding his face. Legs kicking. I turned away and muttered over my shoulder. Leave him breathing. That's all I ask. Then I walked to Evelyn. She hadn't moved. Not 1 inch. Her spine had lost its steel. Her makeup had streaked down her cheeks. She was shaking, visibly, like a leaf in a storm. The woman who once held press conferences without blinking was now reduced to a begging mess in front of the man she thought she had destroyed. One look from me, and she collapsed to her knees. Tears spilled. Snot ran. Dignity forgotten. Victor, please, I'm so sorry, she sobbed. I messed up, I know I messed up. I'll fix it. I'll change. I'll cut him off, I swear to God, just give me one more chance. I'll be better. I'll come home. I'll be your wife again. Just, please, please don't leave me. Once upon a time, I might have believed her. Might have held her hand. Might have pretended it never happened. But that man? He died the moment she chose Blake. Crack. Crack. 2 slaps, clean and sharp, landed across her face. No more speeches. No more drama. Just a final gesture. She looked up at me, stunned. Eyes wide. Hope shattered. This was the end. I turned and shouted, voice echoing across the silent showroom. Oh. Now you know you were wrong. Where was that humility 5 minutes ago, when you were screaming for someone to call the cops? Go ahead, call them. I barked. Let them see how you blew through my money to feed your toy boy, then called your husband and son lunatics. My words hit like thunder. Evelyn's face contorted. Tears. Panic. Regret. But then, like a drowning person grasping at the last floating lie, she looked up and cried. Wait. Victor, we have Jackson. Her head whipped around, eyes frantically searching. Yes. Jackson, baby, I'm your mother. We've been through so much together, you need me. You can't live without your mom. She looked at him the way she used to, like he was 5 years old again, like he'd come running into her arms at the first sign of tension. But Jackson didn't move. He didn't blink. He didn't flinch. He looked straight at her with all the cold clarity of a boy who had grown up without her, who had been told, Mom's too busy, Mom's traveling, Mom's working late, every year, every school event, every lonely holiday. He said nothing. He just looked through her. And Evelyn realized. He was never coming back. The crowd began to murmur, finally starting to see. A woman whispered to her husband. Wait. So that young man is her son? And the guy she slapped? The one she said was stealing her money. That's not some nobody, that's her husband. No. Not just her husband, the real CEO. The actual owner of Oceanic Holdings. Another voice. Jesus. She tried to ruin them. Her own family, for a live stream playboy. People started putting their phones away, guilty, embarrassed. The Whisper network flipped sides in real time. And Evelyn felt it. Felt the shame tightening around her like a noose. So she snapped. She spun back toward me, eyes wild, voice shrill and breaking. Don't believe him. Don't believe a word he says. He's nothing without me. I made him. Every cent he has came from my name. He's trying to steal from me. I didn't move. Didn't raise my voice. I just pulled out my phone again. On the screen, the original articles of incorporation. Filed in my name. I turned it to face the crowd. Turned it toward the cameras. And for the first time since the circus began, I spoke with the voice not of a husband or father, but of a man who built an empire. My name is Victor Hale. I founded Oceanic Holdings. I funded it. I scaled it. I signed every payroll check. And every signature on record? I flipped to the final page. Is mine. I looked down at Evelyn. You were a placeholder. A name I let ride shotgun because I once loved you. Now you're just a lesson. As I turned to leave, something caught my eye. A phone. Still streaming. Still capturing. Blake. Beaten, bruised, face swollen and streaked with blood, but somehow, still clinging to the performance. He struggled upright, clutching a phone to his chest like it was a shield. To everyone watching, please, call the police, he croaked. This man's trying to kill the CEO of Oceanic Holdings and steal her fortune. His voice cracked, but the desperation was real. And pathetic. I walked over, slow and calm, and stepped directly into frame. I looked right into the lens. My pleasure, I said. Call the cops. In fact, let's all call them. Because I've got a list of every cent these two parasites drained from me during my marriage. I turned, and smack, another clean slap landed across Evelyn's once goddess-like face. I didn't say a word. She flinched, not from the pain, but from the final collapse of the image she'd built her life on. The last illusion, shattered. I looked down at her, then over at Blake. And kicked them both. Hard. One step back toward the camera, I smiled. To everyone watching at home, I said, voice like ice dipped in truth. Let's wait for the police, shall we? I'd love to see how I supposedly lived off her fortune. Minutes later, red and blue lights cut across the dealership's glass. Officers rushed in. Crowd parted like a curtain. The energy changed. One of the sergeants stepped forward. We've received multiple calls about an assault, who's involved? Evelyn, disheveled and shaking, pointed a trembling hand. Him. He hit us. He's violent. The officer cut her off. Ma'am, we also received legal filings of a corporate fraud investigation tied to these two, he said, pointing to her and Blake. We need to take you both in for questioning. Please come with us. Blake shrieked, what? You've got the wrong guys. They hit us. We're the victims here. I pulled out a folder, longer than a restaurant menu. Wrong again, I said. Here's a list of all my assets, and all the marital funds you two spent. This is theft. This is fraud. And this, I snapped the folder shut, is the start of your downfall. Don't worry, I added, smiling. Prison has great Wi-Fi. You'll still be able to live stream. The officers cuffed them both. As they were led out, Blake was still yelling. This is a setup. I want my lawyer. Evelyn hung her head. No more words. No more script. Her empire, gone. Blake's confidence shattered completely. He thrashed as the officers grabbed him, his voice shrill and cracking. Evelyn, help me, he screamed. Please. You've gotta help me. That money was yours, you gave it to me. This has nothing to do with me. But Evelyn didn't even look at him. Her eyes were vacant now, hollowed out, because she knew. She was next. She wasn't his shield anymore. Hell, she could barely protect herself. Her empire, her image, her fantasy, it was all dust now. She turned once, to me, and saw the answer in my eyes. I wasn't coming for her. Because I already had. The cuffs clicked behind her back. And just before she was escorted out the glass doors, Evelyn spun around in one final, broken act of desperation. She dropped to her knees. At Jackson's feet. Clutching his pant leg like a child clings to the edge of a dream they're waking up from. "Baby, please, please, help Mommy," she sobbed. "Go talk to Daddy. Tell him I'm sorry. Tell him I'll change. You love Mommy, don't you? You said you'd always love Mommy." But Jackson didn't move. He looked down at her. And saw not his mother. But the woman who stood by while he was humiliated. The woman who watched her lover spit on her own blood. His jaw clenched. His chest rose and fell. But his face? Empty. No warmth. No forgiveness. No lie. I stepped forward and wrapped an arm around his shoulders. He turned toward me, leaned in. I picked him up. Carried him, just like I did when he was small, and his mother said she was too busy to hold him. As we walked away, I paused once. Glanced back. Evelyn was still kneeling on the cold floor. Hands cuffed. Face streaked with mascara and ruin. She looked up. Eyes wide. Still hoping. Still waiting. And I said the last words she would ever hear from me. "You reap what you sow." Then I turned away. And never looked back. Outside the dealership, the scene had shifted. No longer chaos. Now it was confirmation. The police chief himself, gray-haired, confident, voice steady as a gavel, stepped in front of the cameras. He stood beside me, microphone in hand, and spoke with the weight of someone who knew the truth and was done watching it get twisted. "This man here," the chief said, pointing toward me. "You're looking at the real CEO of Oceanic Holdings. He's not some overnight investor. His grandfather built that empire. It's been in the Hale family for 3 generations. Every year, they've donated millions to this city, charities, scholarships, veterans programs. He's never taken a cent from anyone, let alone his wife." He turned, eyes narrowing slightly. "As for Evelyn," he said, almost spitting the name. "She came from humble roots. And that's nothing to be ashamed of. But what she did is. She stood by while her lover tried to rob her own husband. She turned on her son. A boy who still called her mom, and she didn't even blink. And now," the chief raised a brow. "She wants to pretend to be the victim?" The internet exploded. Live chat feed. I knew I recognized him, he was on the cover of Forbes last spring. Evelyn's the real parasite here. All that strong woman act? Lies. No way, Evelyn's mom used to be the Hale family's housekeeper. So she grew up in their house, seduced the heir, married in, and still betrayed him? Cinderella got the crown and still threw it away to shack up with a 2-bit boy toy. Unreal. Inside the dealership, Evelyn stood in cuffs. Face pale. Hair wild. Breathing erratic. She heard every word. And something broke. She suddenly screamed, a guttural, animal sound, and ripped herself free from the cops holding her arms. Gasps rang out. Before anyone could stop her, she lunged, but not at me. Not at Jackson. At Blake. Somehow, somewhere, she had grabbed a wooden stick, maybe a broken fixture from the crash earlier. "You," she shrieked. "You ruined everything." She swung the stick down hard, again and again. "This is your fault. You came into my life, you seduced me." Crack. Thud. Crack. Blake was screaming now, scrambling backwards like a scared child, arms flailing in defense. Security swarmed. But she kept swinging. "You said you loved me. You said I was powerful. You said I was beautiful." Guards finally pulled her away, dragging the stick from her hands. She was still screaming, sobbing, thrashing like something feral. Blake lay curled in a corner, blood on his forehead, whimpering like the act had finally broken through to reality. And the crowd? Silent. Stunned. All those who once thought she was the queen of power now saw her for what she truly was. A broken woman who burned the palace down around her. No one saw it coming. When Evelyn turned and charged at Blake instead of us, the room froze. Phones stopped. Security hesitated. And in those few seconds, she unleashed. No one protected Blake. No one tried. The stick cracked over his shoulder, his ribs, his head, until he slumped, unconscious, on the cold tile. Blood pooled near his cheek. The only sound afterward was the rasp of Evelyn's breath and the clatter of the stick as it rolled from her trembling hand. Police tackled her instantly, cuffing her as she screamed into the air, rage and regret indistinguishable now. The paramedics came next. Blake left in a stretcher, still breathing, but barely. The crowd began to disperse. The live streams had ended. The show was over. The showroom manager, the same one who once smiled at Blake like he was royalty, shuffled forward, legs trembling. He couldn't look me in the eye. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I know I messed up." I looked at him, then shook my head slowly. "This isn't for me to handle," I said coldly. "This is a matter for your corporate leadership and your industry regulators. Every second of what happened today has already been forwarded to your headquarters. I'll leave the consequences to them." His shoulders sank as if the final weight had just landed. And then Jackson and I walked out. No more cameras. No more crowd. Just father and son. And silence. 6 months later. Evelyn was sentenced to 3 years for aggravated assault. The court's final ruling was unflinching. No leniency. Not for betrayal. Not for violence. Not for what she did to her son. Blake spent 2 months in the hospital. He recovered, mostly. But the final medical report noted a brutal detail. Irreversible testicular trauma. He would never have children. Ever. He owed me nearly $3 million in damages. With no skills, no career, and no more women to sponsor him. He ended up in a neon-lit nightclub, serving drinks to the same type of men he used to pretend he was. People tipped him to watch him fall lower. The dealership's top salesman? Fired. He cried foul on every news outlet that would listen. They were both VIPs. What was I supposed to do? The car only had one key. But no one cared. The headlines didn't. The lawsuits didn't. And the internet? They remembered. He was denied job after job until he eventually disappeared from LinkedIn, from dealership rosters, from polite society. Last anyone heard, he was panhandling 2 blocks from the mall. His sign read. Once sold a $6.8 million car. Now I can't sell anything. As for Jackson? He finished his first semester at Harvard with honors. And when I asked him what car he wanted to replace the Aston Martin, he smiled and said, anything but that. So we got him a brand new, custom-built Ferrari. This time, no crowd. No showroom. No live stream. Just father and son. And a silent promise. That nothing fake, nothing stolen, nothing hollow would ever be allowed back into our lives again.